Ready, set, Apopka, go. It's your hometown weekend with Mary Flynn. Brought to you in part by Baptiste Orthodontics. Putting smiles on faces all across Apopka. Centrally located right across from Kitland Nelson Park. Find out more at BaptisteOrthodontics.com. And by Florida Door Solutions. Door installation, door openers and repairs. FLAdoor.com. And Dr. Patrick St. Germain and BurnFatOrlando.com. They want to see less of you. This program was recorded to air at this time.
Welcome to your hometown weekend. I'm Mary Flynn, happy as usual to be with you, especially today, because we have a great show, a great lineup. You know, despite much of the gloom around us caused by COVID-19 issues, there is still some wonderful, positive things happening, as you will soon see with our first guest, a fascinating culinary expert who has spearheaded, led, championed, taught an amazing program at Wekiva High School. And before you go thinking that we're talking about a few cooking classes, far, far from it. It's quite a remarkable thing that the Wekiva High School Academy of Culinary Arts opened its doors 9 years ago and has really taken off. So I welcome Chef Chris Bates. Welcome to the show.
Oh, I'm so glad to be here with you today. Thank you for having me on. And, you know, one of the joys of doing this kind of thing in the era of COVID is my two dogs have decided now is the time to lose their minds. Or, you know, they're barking at the UPS guy. Let me move into another room.
Oh, my goodness.
There.
There we go.
Much better.
Yeah. So this is quite a big deal. You know, I think it was on last week's show, we had Melissa Byrd, who's on the school board, and she's and she even writes a column in the Apopka Chief every week. And one of the things that she is just crowing about is this culinary arts program, and it has become I'm going to lose the word here. A magnet. It has, which is huge because
Melissa is such a wonderful person. We are so lucky in this area to have her as our school board representative because she takes a lot of interest in the individual schools that are in her district, and she has, from the very first time that I met her, she caught the vision that I had and has been a wonderful, wonderful supporter. It is unlikely we would have gotten to magnet status without her, because becoming a magnet in an Orange County public school is quite a task.
Well, you see, Chef, I'm glad we're honoring the efforts of Melissa Byrd.
Yeah.
And I don't want to minimize the fact that you took a shift in your career path. You have been into this with all of your passion. And I'm sure that one of the things that inspires someone like Melissa Byrd is to know that someone like you is in there on the ground making it all work. So tell us about this. How did you get this to happen?
Oh, well, I guess we would have to take a quick step backwards. I was in the restaurant industry for about 28 years, and the hours were brutal. And the time away from my family had gotten to be to the place where even when you're in charge, you're still there all the time.
That's right. Yeah. And
I too many Christmases not at home, too many birthdays missed, too many New Year's Eves. I celebrated my very first New Year's Eve of my entire life, my first year as a teacher.
Wow. Mm-hmm.
Because every New Year's Eve prior to that, I was working. I started working when I was 14, back in the days when you could get a full-time job when you were 14.
That's right.
Which kind of dates me a little. And so I left the industry primarily because I was exhausted.
Yeah.
Physically, mentally, emotionally exhausted. And I needed a change. I needed some new challenges. So I decided to go back to school. I took a huge step down from my career path, and went back to school to get a second bachelor's degree and started teaching English, which was my second great love. I had only taught English for 2 years before our principal was told by someone, I don't even know who told her, about my background, and she moved me over to the culinary program after some. She had to talk me into it. I love teaching English, but she talked me into moving over to the culinary program, and I said, I'm okay with doing that, but I don't just want to teach a class. I want to develop something that's got some teeth to it. I wanted a magnet.
Yeah.
And the difference between a magnet and a class is magnets are available to students all over the county.
Yeah.
So students can come from the Dr. Phillips area if their parents are willing to drive them, and they can join our culinary program and get 4 years of really solid culinary education.
Well, I think that's the magic formula here. Is this Wekiva Culinary program, which is a progressive, it's a 4-year career and technical education program. These kids graduate with this information where they can go out into the field. So it's not like someone has taken, let's say, shop class, and now they can build a bookcase. You know what I'm saying? This is
even in a great shop class. Even in a great shop class, it's not quite the same.
No, it's right. Yeah. I mean, it's quite a remarkable. Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, go tell us.
Okay. We provide our students with a number of professional certifications, opportunities for them to take tests that are the same exact tests that a professional in the industry with 10 or 15 years of experience might be taking. So they leave with not just the experience of cooking with me and running our very active science food lab, or getting out there and catering. So we do a lot of catering. We mass produce hot sauce, which we sell as fundraisers to keep our program alive. And
you mean you have a brand? There's a label. There's a brand label.
Yeah, absolutely. If you, I don't know if it's on our website right now because I have no kids to make more.
Well, there you go. Right.
But yeah, funny you mentioned Melissa. She is addicted to our hot sauce. She has gone through, I think, 15 bottles now.
Oh, my gosh. So where do people buy this? Because one of the things, Chef, I'm so happy, Chef Bates, that you're on the show. I've been trying to get you for a long time, and it's been crazy. It's been crazy with the school being what it is, so disjointed. But the thing of it is that one of the things I want our listeners to know, and I want to say this at the start of the program, that you, and then I do hope to have you back another time because this is just too good. We want to keep this going, is that you are not really funded. This program costs a lot of money. So I want people to know that they are able to contribute. And clearly, if one of the ways is to buy this product, I want to know where to get it. Yeah.
Well, as soon as I have kids, because, after spring break, no students came back. They weren't allowed back on campus.
Sure. Mm-hmm.
So, all of our current big projects that we had underway, either I had to finish them myself, which I did in a couple of things, or they just went bad.
They're just kind of stalled right now.
Everything's
spoiled. Yeah, sure.
Like, for example, I have this wonderful student, I'm going to throw out a name, Carla Baez, who is, she was my senior last year who was in charge of the bakery. We're actually one of 2 culinary programs in the entire state of Florida that have a working bakery classroom.
It's amazing.
A full professional bakery where kids can learn how to make croissants and baguettes and all kinds of things. And she was in charge of it. She was my executive pastry sous chef last year. And she had this brilliant idea of mass producing our sourdough bread. The kids have their own sourdough that they have been, oh goodness,
wow,
we've been like 2 years now. The same exact batch of sourdough. We just keep feeding it and then using it in recipes and feeding it some more.
I love that.
And we sold, I don't know, I think we sold 900 loaves of it.
Holy cow!
That was a lot. Yeah.
Lot.
But as soon as our hot sauce is back online, there will be a Buy Now button on our website. There's also a Donate Now button on the website for those who would like to just. They can sponsor an individual student because it's expensive. They have to get a chef coat. They have to get non-slip, grease-resistant shoes so they'll be safe. I don't want any kids falling down.
Well, one of the things we need to know is that, let me see, I have it right here. WekivaCulinary.org is the website.
Yes, ma'am.
So I went there and I poked around there. It is a rich website. It shows everything because you've got the program divided very, very methodically into freshman year, sophomore year, junior and senior year. I mean, you can see why this has been heralded as a magnet program and why kids would want to come from all over. Tell us about the breakdown of those years. What are the kids actually leaving with and learning?
Oh, can I just say, there's something that I've just done that I am so overwhelmingly jiggle in my feet excited about. I cannot wait for the kids to be back on campus so they can see this thing. I have developed a recognition system so that students, as they progress through the various years and the various challenges that I set before them, they'll be recognized in different ceremonies with gold pins they get to put on their chef coats.
Oh.
So now, but here's the thing. Kids will destroy the world for a pin.
It's true. Yeah.
They get so competitive. And now,
ask Disney about that with their 455,000 pins that they sell for $12 each, right?
I know, right? My previous principal, another shout out to Michele Erickson, who just retired.
Yes, I know.
One of her last acts as principal was to help to fund this pin system, because you wouldn't think that having 22 pins designed and made would be that terribly expensive.
Wow.
But to have enough for 250 to 300 students at a time, it gets quite pricey. So we worked together, and God bless Michele Erickson. And I hope she's enjoying her retirement. If she happens to be listening, she was a life changer for me. Our new principal, Dr. Baker Drayton, is just picking up right where Michele left off.
That's wonderful.
She's been very supportive. Just a cool thing. But you had asked about what they learn. For our kids, everyone who walks in the door knows nothing. They think they know things. They don't. Because we have a fully commercial kitchen.
Yeah.
And they're not learning how to cook a recipe. One of the very first things they learn how to do is how to operate a commercial dishwasher.
Uh-huh.
And, that's a $40,000 piece of equipment that, thanks to some grants, loans, and a lot of goodwill, we were able to get installed over the last year. But, operating something that big, that gets that hot, that requires training. So kids come in thinking, give me a recipe, give me some food, and let me cook.
Well,
it becomes much more basic than that. Plus, there's knife skills. Imagine for a minute.
I don't even want to imagine
Mary,
it.
I want you to imagine this, okay? Imagine 35 14-year-olds. Got it in your mind? 35
I do. I have it.
All 35 of them are holding a 10-inch long, razor-sharp chef's knife.
Oh, my gosh. Listen, on that cliffhanger, we're going to take our break.
Sure.
We want to hear this. And what you're leading us to is for people to understand this is not just about you go in and learn how to scramble an egg. You're taking them right down to the basic, pick up the knife kind of thing. And we're going to come right back because Chef Chris Bates, this is just, I'm so excited about this. I don't know how I might get involved in this, but anyway, we're coming right back with Chef Bates on your hometown weekend, AM 950, FM 94.9. And here we are back, Mary Flynn on your hometown weekend. So delighted. And Chef Chris Bates from Wekiva High School Culinary Magnet Program. There's just not enough time. You've got to come back. But when we went to our break, we were talking about when these kids come in, this is a 4-year program. This is a 4-year program when they will graduate and they will be equipped and certified to go out into the restaurant world. And when you bring them in, you're not having them start by scrambling an egg. You're introducing them to a 10-inch knife. Let's pick up on that. That was our cliffhanger. So tell us about 40 kids with a 10-inch knife.
Because one of the first things that we have to do is we have to give them solid knife skills. The knife is the chef's most basic tool. We use a knife constantly. There's a reason it's called a chef's knife and not just I don't know what else you would call it.
Right.
Big,
kitchen knife.
Pointy thing.
Yeah, hand me that kitchen knife.
Knife because it is our primary tool.
Yeah.
in all reality, I went to a wonderful competition back when I was in culinary school, where your only thing that you got was a chef's knife and a saute pan.
Wow.
Nothing else.
Wow.
Not everything that you did, you had to only prepare with those two items. So we get all these kids there, and we teach them very, very basic things, like how do you walk through the kitchen with a knife without pointing somebody?
Yeah, seriously, yeah.
How do you chop an onion the way a chef does, which is not the way most people do? How do you take a carrot and trim it down to a perfect batonette? Those are vital skills.
Yeah.
We start there because it's a very much a building program. Everything is progressive, like you mentioned earlier. What they learn today, they will need tomorrow. What they learn tomorrow will be required of them when they are sophomores or juniors.
So that first year, that freshman year, kind of to your point about the knife, the first year is they're going towards being certified in food safety.
Oh, well, actually, the first year is all about being certified in what the certification is they're shooting for is called the Serve Safe Food Manager certification.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
And it has all to do with how do you keep people from getting food poisoning from the lunch you just made them.
Right. With a dirty kitchen knife.
Well,
yeah,
you would be surprised.
Yeah,
how many students have told me my mom always does it that way.
Yeah,
and I have to very gently say, I'm surprised you're not dead.
Yeah, right. Have you heard of botulism? Oh my gosh. And then sophomore year then is food protection manager program. I mean, this is amazing. Junior and senior year, ProStart National Certificate of Achievement.
That's what gets them college credit.
Wow.
If they complete the ProStart Certificate of Achievement, which is 2 different exams, and it requires a bunch of internship hours with me. So they have to do a lot of work to get that.
This is a no kidding around program.
10 and 14 college credit hours, depending on what school they go to.
Yeah.
One of the things that we're very excited about is we have just started the process of becoming one of 3 ACFEF certified schools. ACF stands for the American Culinary Federation.
Oh.
And they are the ones who do the big tests. Have you ever heard the term Master Chef?
Yes, sure.
Okay, Master Chef is an actual title. There's 126 of them right now in the world, I think. 127, something like that.
Wow.
It's a big deal. But underneath that Master Chef certification, there's a number of other levels. The very most basic one is the Certified Culinarian. That's the certification you get if you graduate from culinary school and then you take the test for an adult. My students, high school students, are going to be able to take that test and get the same certification they would have had they gone to Johnson & Wales or Kaiser University or Valencia Culinary School.
That's amazing. That's amazing. It's amazing. And we were kind of just talking about this briefly on the break, but there were so many wonderful things in this program that have to do with a lot more than the griddle and the burner. These kids, just when we talk about sports teams, one of the things that graduating seniors who've been on the football team for years will say is they learned respect, they learned discipline, they learned to lose, they learned to win the right way. And actually, you're in the same boat. These kids who are coming to you as their teacher, their master, their champion, they're gonna you own the room, and they're gonna have to respect you. Yes.
Or run really fast. They have 2 options.
Hopefully not with a 10-inch knife after them.
Oh, absolutely. It's funny, too. All of my students who would be listening right now would probably be yelling at the radio because one of the first things that I teach them is you never run in the kitchen, ever.
Ever. That's right. That's right.
Ever. But to your point, and I think this is important, one of the questions that I get from parents a lot is, I'm not absolutely sure my kid is going to go into hospitality. Why would I want to send him to this magnet? I'm not absolutely, my student is interested, But I don't know that I'm all that excited about supporting them in an industry that's so hard and sometimes doesn't pay well.
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
And my response is this. Our program is designed in such a way that kids who come to us get the interpersonal skills that they need to be successful regardless.
Right.
They get the skills they need in bookkeeping and math and finance, because that's a big part of what they do as juniors and seniors.
Because you're teaching them the
do
business.
the money.
Yeah, the business around culinary. This business. Yeah.
And they learn entrepreneurship skills.
Right.
They learn how to write a resume that actually doesn't look terrible.
Right.
They get all of these different skills that have nothing to do with food.
Right.
Organization, teamwork, genuine leadership. And then they get a lot of things that I don't think are very easy to quantify. Self-respect, confidence, the understanding that a leader is more than someone who tells others what to do.
Right.
You know, those are kind of intangibles, but I don't know what anything is more important, because we've all had a boss who thought that being a boss meant telling people what to do.
You know what else, too, is we also have had parents, and one of the things I learned, I'm a big fan of the Food Network. I just find it fascinating, and I'm amazed when they have high school kids on there. Chopped Junior is an amazing program, because I don't know how many kids. When I was 15, I had no idea, what a poutine was. But the thing is that so many of the young chefs, well, and even the older ones too, they say that cooking changed their life. It gave them, as you were saying, self-esteem. Maybe they had rough parents. Maybe they had a broken home. Maybe they were out on the streets. Maybe they left high school. Maybe, in other words, cooking, going into the kitchen and mastering the skills required in the kitchen gave them such a sense of independence, well-being, ability to get along in the world, earn, move beyond their past. So it's life-changing for so many people.
Yes, yeah. And also, jumping off that idea, one of the big things that my kids enjoy, in fact, it might be the biggest thing they enjoy, is going to competitions. We have been fortunate we have won all of the regional contests.
Wow.
We've taken first place in everything for, I think, 2 years in a row now, maybe 3. I don't know. I don't remember. We have a big old shelf of trophies. And in the process of competing, the kids get this unbelievably important lesson, and that is that the people who win are the people who prepare.
Right.
It's not luck. It's not luck.
You bet. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Well, and,
yeah.
The one I don't know how we're doing on time. I feel like we've been talking for 3 minutes, but I know it's longer than that.
Well, we've got about 3.5 minutes left.
Oh, excellent.
But I just want to mention, because you brought up some numbers that I wanted to just chime in on, because what I found on your website is you've got 275 students. Of course, when we get back,
more than that right now.
Yeah, I bet you probably keep growing. Eight programs,
Yep.
And you've served 8,500 meals. That's a big
deal.
Year.
That was last year.
Last year.
We served 8,500 meals last year.
Wow.
We'll have to reset that counter back down to 0, because we reset it every year.
Oh, my gosh.
But yeah, we did 8,500 meals. We did a lot of neat catering jobs last year. We catered the policeman's ball.
Really?
Here in Apopka for 400 and some odd people. We catered a wedding reception. We catered the firemen's awards banquet. We catered...
My goodness.
A number of things.
Huh.
And, of course, the meals that they are constantly serving on campus to teachers and staff members.
Now, do they get to eat the food? Do the kids eat the food?
They get to taste everything.
Yeah.
They taste everything. In terms of meals, we don't... it took me a year before I came to the conclusion that we were going to have to do it the same way they do it in regular culinary schools, which is you taste everything, you eat nothing.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Because otherwise my students were cooking to eat rather than cooking to learn.
To learn. And something I read, I took off your website, and I think it's something you subscribe to, from Gordon Ramsay, the great chef Gordon Ramsay. He said, I train my chefs completely different to anyone else. My young girls and boys, when they come to the kitchen, the first thing they get is a blindfold. They get blindfolded and they sit down at a chef's table. Unless they can identify what they're tasting, they don't get to cook it. Which I think is...
That's what I do with all of my seniors.
There you go.
The way that Gordon Ramsay is a remarkable trainer and educator of young chefs. Yeah, I don't know if that comes across in his television work.
Right.
But I've been fortunate to be friends with a couple of executive chefs that have worked for him. And they all say the same thing, that he puts in remarkable training programs and testing programs to make sure that his young chefs are up to the task.
Wow.
And I do basically the same thing. I just stole it.
I want to go back to school and learn under you. Let me ask you this. We have about a minute left. And
sure.
We've got to have you back. You've got to you're a friend of our program. You've got to, you're definitely going to be a hit with all our listeners. You've got to plan to come back. But in the meantime...
we should do this.
What?
You should come to the school and sit in our cafe, and we'll do a live broadcast while I feed you.
Our Pete Paquette, who's our program manager, is listening to this, and I would love that idea. We'll have to definitely talk about that.
We'll
would
work
love
that
to
out.
do that. We'll have to work it out. So what's a quick final message? What do you want us to know? We need to go to your website, which is I gave it a minute ago.
WekivaCulinary.org.
Yes, a great website. And think about maybe donating some money, buying product when it's available again, and supporting in so many ways. Because you gave me some figures, and we haven't even gotten to them about what this costs.
Yeah.
Thousands.
Let's talk about that next time. Here's kind of a
please.
final message that
Yes.
I think I want people in the community to know. If they have a student who is right now 13 years old or 14 years old, 13 and 14 is the magic age, because you got to come in as a freshman. If you are already in the zone for Wekiva High School, then all you have to do is get in touch with the guidance counselor at Wekiva and say you want to join the culinary program. We have open space because so many students have pulled out. That's the first thing. And the second thing is we are fully prepared at Wekiva High School to teach, regardless of how the coronavirus pandemic works out. We are prepared. Our students are going to continue to be learning, both in my program and across every class.
Well, Chef, there is so much for us to talk about. Don't go anywhere, because we're going to take a quick break, and we're coming right back because there's a lot more we need to know about this exciting program on your hometown weekend, AM 950, FM 94.9.
Ready, set, Apopka Go. It's your hometown weekend with Mary Flynn. Brought to you in part by Baptiste Orthodontics. Putting smiles on faces all across Apopka. Centrally located right across from Kitland Nelson Park. Find out more at BaptisteOrthodontics.com. And by Florida Door Solutions. Door installation, door openers and repairs. FLAdoor.com. And Dr. Patrick St. Germain and BurnFatOrlando.com. They want to see less of you. This program was recorded to air at this time. See? Told you you'd like it. More great interviews now.
Baby, you a song, you make me want to roll my windows down and cruise.
And here we are back on your hometown weekend, AM 950, FM 94.9, The Answer. Having a great time today. Fascinating to be talking to you, Chef Bates from Wekiva High School Culinary program. I mean, this is a 4-year certification. It's a remarkable thing. And the Wekiva High School Academy of Culinary Arts, a magnet school. And what that means, and it's very hard to get that certification, it takes several years, and you've championed that along with people like Melissa Byrd, who's on the school board. But you were telling me in our earlier conversation what some of the expenses are, because you've been throwing things around like you've got a 10-inch chef's knife for 40 kids. Those knives are very expensive. The equipment is expensive. Am I right? These stoves. Tell us some of the expenses.
Well, here's the thing. We have two challenges, right? We want them to work with commercial equipment. It's one of the directives of the Florida Department of Education that career and technical education programs have students working on the same equipment that they would be using in that field. Makes sense.
Sure.
But the challenge is, A, commercial equipment is insanely expensive, and B, commercial equipment requires quite a bit of upkeep.
Mm.
It's not like, people think earlier, right when we started our conversation, you said students aren't coming in and scrambling eggs. No, honestly, they don't ever scramble eggs. It's not one of the things that they learn because we use something called a bag, egg in the bag product. It's a giant plastic sealed bag with maybe 5 gallons of scrambled eggs in it, and you put it into a giant vat of simmering water, and it scrambles in the bag.
Oh.
We're not teaching them to make scrambled eggs for the family. This is a culinary program, not a home ec program.
Well, see, that's amazing. I just learned something. Of course, we're going. We're going high level here. We're going high level here. Yeah.
When you go to like a breakfast buffet, there's not somebody in the back, cracking individual eggs and scrambling them for you. Those are giant monster-sized bags of already scrambled eggs, usually with citric acid added to it to help them to scramble right, but that's probably too much information.
So you have to buy those giant bags of eggs for one thing. Yeah, right?
Yeah, right.
Mm.
We do a breakfast at Wekiva High School 4 times a year. At the end of each quarter, we give those students who got a 4.0 GPA that previous quarter a breakfast for them and their families. Sort of as a way to celebrate.
Oh, that's nice.
And
yeah.
we cater it. So in order for my kids to cater a breakfast for, 100 to 150 people at 7 o'clock in the morning, my kids come to school at 5.
Oh.
Before any other students are there on campus. And before the lights are even turned off.
Well, that's a lesson right there.
Up.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know, right?
Yeah.
My kids are showing up to cater this giant breakfast banquet.
Mm-hmm.
Now, we've been doing that for a couple of years.
Wow.
And the kids do it as a matter of course.
Yeah.
They do it because they want the experience, sure. And they do it because they love what they're doing.
Mm-hmm.
And giving our students a genuine love of a job well done.
Right.
Oh, that's
there's no match for that.
To who we are.
No match for that.
As a program.
Yeah. And you know what's interesting about this is, for so many years, decades, our school system was known as audiovisual. Yeah. You read, you learn, you listen, you read, you learn. And for a lot of people, I have a niece like that. Audiovisual does not work for her. She is kinesthetic. She learns through doing. She learns through her hands. She doesn't read. She doesn't learn through reading anything. It goes in one part of her brain and out the other. But she is a master at art. Or she taught herself origami when she was 9. I mean,
oh, goodness gracious.
And I think possibly one of the appeals, if I may, for your students is I bet you a lot of them are kinesthetic. They learn through doing best. Is that possible?
Well, of course. What you're talking about in the world of education is called learning modalities.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
All these different ways that you can learn. And I've gone to great lengths to make sure that we hit every single modality that I can possibly work in.
Mm-hmm.
Because there's not just doing it yourself, the kinesthetic learning, listening to it,
right.
Auditory, reading, right, whatever. There's also watching other people do it. There's also being part of a team,
right?
The social style of learning.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of different ways that our kids can interact with the material. And again, my goal in everything that we do, in every class, in every lesson, in every project or problem that I put before them and challenge them to try to solve, is to incorporate as much math and science and writing and reading and research as possible. Because a lot of our kids, like you say, math and science are not their friends.
Mm. There's another way
when
to
they make
learn
our
it.
hot sauce and they have to, do the equation to figure out how hot it's going to be based on how much capsaicin is going to be remaining after the fermentation period's over.
Right.
I mean, you have to do the science.
People don't
Otherwise,
realize
your hot sauce is going to be crap.
Exactly. I know. Well, this is so interesting. People don't. I mean, it's true sometimes, and I've done this myself in the kitchen where. I think I'll throw a little bit of this in the pot, and I think I'll add a little bit of that. But the fact of the matter is, there is a chemical reaction going on, especially true of baking. I mean, if you miss 1/8 of a teaspoon of salt, you're in trouble for that cake.
Right. And also, just as a point of food snobbery, you can just kind of play with food and just kind of add a little of this, a little of that, as you said. When you're only making a meal for 2 or 3 or 4 people,
right.
Sure. But when you're making a meal for 500,
you're right.
You can't do that.
That's right. Yeah.
Because the recipe might be calling for a pound of salt.
Yeah, right.
Right. You just kind of, I'll just take in a little
Let
more.
me take another half pound of salt in there. It's a remarkable thing. So tell us about some of to get back to some of them. We have so many directions to go here, so my mind is kind of racing. But you gave me some numbers this morning. We were talking about the knives. You were talking because it's
sure.
And I have to tell you, one of the things that I have to almost laugh at is when I watch Chopped on the Food Network. It's a competition. If people aren't familiar with it, they get 4 chefs. And they come in, and they may be new chefs, they may be experienced executive chefs or whatever. They come in and they have to compete against each other for 3 courses: an appetizer, an entree, and a dessert. And sometimes when the celebrity chef will say, the panel will say to them, "So what are you going to do with the $10,000 if you win it?" And they say, "Well, I want to open a restaurant." And I'm thinking, really? You won't get your oven for $10,000?
That's so funny you'd say that, because there is currently an oven that I am desperate to get for my kids because it's so common in commercial kitchens. It's made by this company called Rational, and a Rational combi oven. It runs somewhere in the range of 40 to 80 grand.
Yeah, see? Oh, my gosh.
And it's just something that will never be in our budget.
Right. Yeah.
So the only way
never say never. Chef,
to work with.
Never say never.
Oh, no, the only way that it'll show up is if we find a generous partner in education or someone who wants to work with us on a big fundraising campaign.
Exactly, sure.
It can happen.
Yes.
Goodness gracious.
Yeah.
So, we were talking about money, and just in general, it costs us roughly about $4,000 per half year, per semester, per class. We currently have 7 classes. So,
And what does that cover? What is that for? What is that $4,000?
That's for the food and for ongoing maintenance.
So for one student's measure of food that they will be working with for that semester, just for the food, it's going to be $4,000.
No, just for one class, it's $4,000.
Oh, for the class. Okay, got it.
For one student, it comes out to, I think we worked it out at about $350 per semester.
Yeah, okay.
Students are invited, them and their families are invited to contribute to the program so that we can keep cooking, but it's not required, of course. We're a public high school.
Sure.
We do get some funding from the state based on how many students pass certifications. That's called the CAPE Fund. Mm-hmm.
But you must have
some years that's excellent. But like this last year, we left school at the end of spring break.
Right. Yeah.
I did not have a single student that took a test that's going to bring in a CAPE fund. Not one.
Yeah.
So it's going to be interesting. We're going to be tightening our belt and trying to get creative.
Well, and also
doing a lot of cooking with Bisquick.
I think so, yeah. But also, when we think about it too, you don't have just an ordinary kitchen there. I mean, I'm an author, and I've gone to schools for younger children, and I've read I have some children's books, and I've read the books, and one of them has a recipe in it that the kids can make. They're macaroons, and it has no flour. And if the school has a kitchen, they let these kids, that's when I leave. They're braver than I am. They let the kids go in the kitchen and make this recipe, and they're great. But the thing is, that's a kitchen. You're not talking about a kitchen. You're talking about a culinary studio where you've got probably state-of-the-art stuff. And in many.
Well, some of our stuff is state of the art.
Yeah, it has to be. Some
of our stuff is state of the art. When I inherited the program, I had a home ec classroom. It was regular counters with Formica countertops, the same as you have in like an apartment. Some kitchen ranges that were made by Amco, which they were like, I don't know, $200 a piece or something. We didn't have a commercial sink. We had a lot of pots and pans, and we had a full set of knives. But that was about it.
Wow.
Since that time, we've expanded from that one room, that first kitchen, which is now almost entirely commercial. It's about 80% commercial. I'm still wanting to replace the ranges, but one thing at a time. But we've expanded. So now we have the main teaching kitchen. We have our full teaching bakery, which is one of those things that sets us apart from any other culinary school in Central Florida, and one of those 3 in the whole state.
Wow.
We have an observation kitchen where students come and watch me or one of the other culinary instructors demonstrate how you do a recipe.
Wow.
We have a regular classroom,
mm-hmm.
and then we have our in-school dining room, which is basically it's a cafe.
Well, it really is complex.
Fully appointed.
Yeah.
That's where we want you to come.
Right, I'm going to come. You can be sure I'm going to come.
Hang out in my cafe with me.
Right. Listen, we're going to come right back. And you know what I want to know when we come back? Let's talk about some of the students. I'd love to hear about some of these experiences. When we come back, we're here with Chef Chris Bates of Wekiva High School Culinary Certification Program, a magnet program, on your hometown weekend, AM 950, FM 94.9, The Answer. Mary Flynn back with you on your hometown weekend. Excited to be talking today with Chef Chris Bates of the Wekiva High School Culinary Arts Program. Like nothing we've seen around here, it's a magnet school, which means that kids from all over can come because they leave school with a certification where they can go out into the restaurant world, into the food world, or not, but they're going to have a slew of interpersonal skills.
And marketable skills.
Definitely marketable. Yes.
One of the things that I'm so happy about and I'm so grateful for are the relationships that I'm able to build with my kids. Granted, I spend a lot more time with my students than most teachers on campus do with theirs. Granted. Now, obviously. I spend hundreds of hours with them when we're getting ready for competitions, or when we're getting ready to go and cater an event. I mean, it's just ridiculous. But they keep in touch with me. And just 2 quick stories. One is a student who had just graduated and thought they were going off to college, but the college closed down, so they got a job, and they're doing online education. They went to a local restaurant here in Apopka, and they just want to get a job. Just anything, just to keep giving something to do while they're not doing online work. And they showed the owner their ServSafe certification that they got from me, and not only did they get hired, but they got an immediate promotion, and they came in as a supervisor, making $5 or $6 more per hour than they would have otherwise.
Wow.
That was
boy, that's proof. That's wonderful.
Right?
Now, let me ask you, when you're in the kitchen or in the classroom or in the dining room, wherever you are with the kids, are you going down a line looking at what they've prepared? Let's say if it is cooking that they're doing, or some other skill, are you kind of going down the line, observing and giving feedback, and then do the other kids get to hear the feedback? Because one of the things I'm thinking is I can learn a lot from hearing the feedback for someone else.
Sure.
So how does...
Well, basically what I think you're asking is, so how does it work anyway?
Yeah.
How do you do it?
Yeah.
We have 2 models that we use interchangeably. And on occasion, I'll throw in a monkey in the works, and I'll make them cook something on their own. But generally speaking, they cook in teams. Teams of 4 to 5 students will be working on either one recipe for the people that are less experienced. Once we start getting up to upperclassmen, juniors and seniors, they may have 4 or 5 recipes that they're working on simultaneously.
Over what period of time? Yeah. Like, are they in a...
Each class is 48 minutes.
Okay, yeah.
So they have 48 minutes to begin, finish, serve, get their feedback, and clean up.
Okay, yeah.
Which is a huge challenge. I actually, I did not follow the model of some of my fellow culinary teachers across the county and across the state. I increased the tension. I want them to learn how to deal with the stress and the pressure. Mm-hmm. Because in the real world, in a real kitchen, you don't have 45 minutes to make a plate.
No, and it's a lot of pressure. Yeah.
You have about 8 minutes. And I want them to get used to it so that they can start building up a callus, an emotional callus to pressure and stress. Does that make sense?
Well, plus they've got to clean up. And, you're not, now they may have a job somewhere where somebody comes in and cleans up, but they're, and it's great when they get married because if there is some, we always joke, I remember when
your mama does not come to this school and nobody cleaning up after you.
Hey, listen, when I used to cook with, I know when I used to cook with my husband, he'd kind of be so proud of what he'd done and he'd go and watch television. I say, hey, wait a minute.
And it's funny you bring that up. Because that's one of the first things that I usually have to break them up while they're cooking, is this idea that someone's going to take care of their mess.
Right, yeah.
So that's they cook in teams. And generally speaking, what it'll be is 2 of the students will be doing the primary cooking. One of those students will be doing the preparation of individual ingredients. In the kitchen, we call that mise en place. And then another one of the students will be focused on getting dishes washed as they're made dirty, putting things back away.
There you go.
Because they don't get to eat anything at all.
Yeah, right, there you go.
If their station's dirty when the bell rings. Because I have another group of kids coming in.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
There's only minutes between classes. And if the next class can't cook because they're having to clean up after the first class, then the whole system breaks.
That's not good. So how do you do feedback?
We do that pretty frequently.
Do you do team by team? You do team by team and tell them what's good. Are you tasting it? Are you looking at their skills?
Yeah. I taste everything. I evaluate it based on, what we call the 5 C's in the restaurant world. But basically, it's color, contrast, plating, how well they follow the recipe itself. Mm-hmm. How does it taste?
Yeah.
How does it taste? And is it hot or is it cold?
Yeah. Execution.
Because we've all been to a restaurant where the food might have been great, but it came to our plate cold.
Right. Yeah. I mean,
that's timing.
Yeah. So you have a lot on your plate, no pun intended, or maybe it was, but but there's a lot you have to do. I mean, you have to look out for them as their skills. You have to look out for them for safety. You have to look out for them for their interpersonal, because they're operating as a team as well. So you're coaching, you're mentoring. What's the hardest part? What's the hardest part for you and for them?
The hardest part for our students, I think, is having visited a lot of high schools when in the preparation for filing the magnet paperwork. I went to a lot of schools. A lot of schools, all across the state, and one in Georgia. And I realized, because Wekiva is the only high school I've ever worked at, I don't have experience with other ones. So one of the things that I realized really fast was that the challenges that we have at our school are across the board. Our students have a very hard time working with people they don't care for.
Oh.
And the interpersonal challenges, it's funny you brought that up. The interpersonal challenges is one of the biggest challenges that my kids face. And that I face. Because and when I was growing up, and perhaps I had no idea how old you are, Mary, and I'm not going to even bother to guess because
I'm 20.
Was rude and wrong of me. But when I was growing up, there was the fact that you didn't like someone meant nothing.
It's true.
You had to work with them anyway.
Exactly.
Students growing up right now, current high school students and current middle school students, I'm sure, they did not grow up with that idea.
That's right.
They seem to have, as a cultural concept, that if I don't like you, I shouldn't have to do anything with you.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And it's a big challenge for them. And, when you were listing the things that I have to keep an eye on with my students, you missed two that I think are vital. One is that I keep on top of how my kids are doing at home.
Exactly.
And I keep on top of how my kids are doing academically in all the other classes.
Right, right.
Because one of the things that I require is that my students turn in a grade sheet. It's where they go and they get all of their other teachers to sign off with their current grade and their current level of absenteeism or tardyism.
Because these kids are still taking English and math and science.
Oh, of course.
Of course. They're right.
Of course.
So it's not that this
to graduate.
Exactly. It's not that this culinary program is as astounding as it is replacing all of the other subjects. They still have to learn that plus succeed in this program.
Right.
Yeah.
So on that note, let's talk future for a second, can we? Of
course. I saw you have a 2-year plan, a 5-year plan, a 10-year plan.
I have a 10-year plan.
Yeah.
Actually, I have a 15-year plan because I know what I want in 15 years, but I'm not going to say it out loud, otherwise it won't come true. However, over the next 3 years, our goal is to purchase a food truck because I want to create a class where my seniors, as an entrepreneurship exercise, run a food truck business for a whole year.
Wow.
There's only one other school in the entire country that does that.
See, you are so creative.
In Chicago, I've studied what they did, and I want to bring that to Wekiva and Apopka. I want to bring it here so bad because, A, it'll give our kids something to be proud of, but more important than the pride, which maybe not more important, but equally important to the pride they get from the process, is the amount of entrepreneurship skills they're going to get out of that.
Right, yeah.
Of solid business skills.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a wonderful ongoing fundraising opportunity for us.
It's interesting. It's interesting because I also watch Restaurant Impossible once in a while with Chef Robert Irvine. And one of the things he does, of course, he goes into a failing restaurant. And when he sits down, it's remarkable to me as a viewer that for restaurants that have been in business maybe 10, 20 years or 5 years or 2 years or whatever, it's remarkable how many of those restaurant owners don't understand the breakdown of expenses between the cost of the food, the labor, and right? And
right.
Yeah, and he says you need to.
Oh, by the way,
yeah,
kids hate that.
Okay,
right. It's called recipe costing. It's one of those foundational.
Oh my
things
gosh!
you have to do is know how much a recipe costs to create.
Exactly.
And they hate it with a passion.
Yes.
So the food truck, that's a big, big dream. Melissa and we were just literally, Melissa Byrd, our school board representative for this district, we were chatting about it yesterday. She said, are we any closer? And I said, aside from the fact that I've got a great plan, no, we're going to get there.
We're going to get there.
The two other things that are going to be happening in the next 2 to 3 years is we're adding two classes that are unique right now in the state of Florida. We want to add a culinary math class so that our kids can, right from the very beginning, really nail down the math skills. Because, again, a lot of our culinary kids, they're not great at math.
Right, yeah. And you have to be, really. Yeah.
Yeah, it'll combine food and math together in such a way that I'm hoping that maybe they don't love math, but at least they're not scared of it.
Well, if they have a fun context in which to learn it, it makes a big difference. Yeah.
And the other thing, and I'm extraordinarily excited about this, is we are, oh my goodness, I'm practically trembling. I'm so excited. We are going to open a food lab where students study chemistry in the context of cooking.
Is that what they call the molecular kind of?
Molecular gastronomy is a little different. I think that's where you're headed with that.
Yeah.
Molecular gastronomy is when you use chemistry to get food to do funky things. Like you can do spherification, where you add some calcium alginate to a liquid.
Oh, yeah. I'm lost already.
Oh, you're lost?
Yeah,
well,
but food lab sounds good.
It's funky things with food. That's molecular gastronomy.
Yeah.
Food chemistry, on the other hand, is when you study what happens to a steak when it hits heat. As the proteins begin to denature. And how can you control that denaturing in such a way that you get the best possible steak?
You know, Chef, honestly, I wish we had 2 more hours with you. This is so interesting. It's fun. It's exciting. It's an extraordinary program. You're my friend now, right? You're my friend.
Oh, of course.
You'll come back.
Well, you're coming to me next time. I came to you this time.
Send me an invite. I'm coming in. I've got to talk Pete Paquette into doing a live broadcast from one of your big deals. And
that would be awesome.
Oh my gosh!
You're just looking for free food.
Food. That's free food. That's Pete. Free food. Chris,
hey, we're having the grand opening of our cafe, and you are more than welcome.
Let us know.
My guest of honor. How does that sound?
Sounds great. Oh, my gosh. Chef Chris Bates, Wekiva High School Culinary Program, you have delighted us today and inspired us. So glad you were here. We will talk to you soon again, my friend. This is Mary Flynn, thanking you all for listening to your Hometown Weekend, AM 950, FM 94.9, The Answer.